All right, how's everybody doing? I'm Jeremy Langwell coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens here in our banquet kitchen at our Great River Road Museum. Only been open for about a year. If you haven't been out here to check out the Great River Road Museum, you can come tour this as well in addition to touring the grounds and property or coming to eat at the restaurant. How's everybody doing out there today? Hope everybody's doing wonderful. Actually, Jessie is not here today. She's with her children who are in Houston, I believe, doing track and field. They're both super athletic, both capital N, capital E, Mary Ellen and Grant. And they're at the Junior Olympics, which is taking place over there. So she's watching them just kick butt. And I know Grant had his personal best in the something meter, 400 meter, 100 meter, I don't know. Does it look like I've ever been in any kind of Olympics? No. But wish them well. But with that said, my friend Rachel Whitesides is behind the camera, general manager here at Houmas House. How long have you been working here, Rachel? About 16 years?
Yes, sir.
I remember when Rachel was like 19 years old, and now she's just a little bit older and runs things here. So I'm happy to have her helping. But I'm going to go ahead. We have a chock full recipe today, so I'm going to jump in, get started, and we're just going to go ahead and get going. So we're doing oven barbecued baby back ribs. And this is a great method of cooking baby back ribs, which, look, there's nothing more I love than putting a rack of ribs on the grill. But let's say you wanted a simpler version that comes out absolutely fantastic. You don't want to, it's hot outside, you don't feel like firing up that grill today. Check out this recipe. It's really neat how we're going to do it. So let's just jump in and get started. I have here just a regular old rack of ribs. And the first thing we want to do is make a seasoning rub and kind of season it and get it all seasoned up and ready to go into the oven. So let's do that. So let's start with our seasoning rub. So I have here, this is, of course, like everything, our recipes are online, Houmas House website, but we're going to start with a cup of brown sugar. And then look, you're going to notice that everything we're making, lots of spices, so I'm going to go over each one. We have here some paprika. This is granulated garlic. We have just a little bit of dried mustard powder. And of course, guys, y'all can alternate these recipes, definitely change them up. If you like Caribbean jerk seasoning, well, put some of that in there. It's going to be fantastic. This is a little bit of black pepper. We're going to put that in there. I have some coriander. I'm going to give it just a nice robust spice. That goes in. Cumin, a little ground cumin. This is like a seasoning oftentimes you'll find in chili. Just gives it a very kind of southwestern rustic taste, and that's going to be perfect for this. And some dried thyme is going to go in. Now, once we got all that made, this is going to be, again, this is our seasoning rub. Oh, and some salt. Almost forgot. Got to get our salt in there as well. Good old kosher salt. So once we got all this just in a bowl, I'm just going to mix this up real good, and this is going to be our rub for the ribs. Now, since we're doing these oven barbecued ribs, we're going to also, to help this stick a little bit better and to add some flavor, I'm going to just take some Worcestershire sauce and kind of get it on top of these ribs right here. And then a little bit of liquid smoke. Now liquid, and look, this can be strong, so just a couple drops, a couple splashes right on there. Now liquid smoke is one of those items I often don't use normally, but it's absolutely perfect for doing these oven-style ribs, which are going to give it a nice kind of smoky flavor. You know, back in the day, I actually thought liquid smoke was like this chemical, but it's actually made with all natural ingredients. All they do is take water and filter it through a mesquite charcoal, and then filter that, and that water that comes off that's what they use to make liquid smoke. So it's actually an all-natural ingredient, but it can be fairly strong, so just a little bit goes a long way, guys. So we're going to just really rub down with that seasoning mixture. Just look, don't have any left over. Just take all of it in there and just really rub down these ribs, both sides, and get them on there real good. Now, I want y'all to notice what I got going on here. I'm using a pan. I have these ribs in a pan that has a lip on it. And that's because what I'm now going to do is I got a half a cup of water, and I'm not going to pour it directly on the ribs, but I'm going to pour it around in the pan. And then I'm going to come back with some aluminum foil, and I'm going to crimp this down around the ribs, and this is ready to get it nice and tight, and this is going to go into a 350-degree oven. Actually got some going, so I'm just going to set this over here, but into a 350-degree oven for an hour and a half, and just let that go. The reason we added that that water into the side of the pan and then tightly seal the pan with aluminum foil on top is as this cooks in the oven, that water is going to generate the steam, which is going to cook and tenderize the rib so it's nice and tender. So 350 degrees, 1 hour. Everybody with me? You with me, Rachel?
Sir.
All right. Good, good, good. So now, look, of course, use any barbecue sauce you want. However, if you want to be cool, like the cool kids do, we're going to make our own barbecue sauce from scratch. Super easy to do. Again, a bunch of spices, but a lot of the similar spices we just used. So the first thing I'm going to do is, and we're just going to put them in a pot and kind of warm all the ingredients together. First thing I'm going to do is add some good old ketchup right in here. Again, recipes online, you'll find all the measurements. We're going to put some ketchup right into the pan. And we're going to, what I wanted to do, and the ribs, these ribs are actually on our menu at Houmas House in our Carriage House restaurant, and we call them Louisiana ribs because we have a little bit of Asian flair. We'll get to that in a second. But next, to add some sweetness, we're going to add some good old, oftentimes you'd add brown sugar, but instead of adding brown sugar, I'm going to add a hit of good old Louisiana Steens cane syrup. This is, we don't really use, in Canada, they love their maple syrup. But in Louisiana, we have our cane syrup, which is a syrup made directly from sugar cane, great on waffles or pancakes. But I often love using it in all kind of savory dishes. Our salad dressing, for example, that we have at our Houmas House salad is a balsamic and cane syrup dressing. So it's very versatile. Just add a touch of sweetness to anything, and that's what it's doing for this barbecue sauce as well. It's adding a little bit of sweetness to this. Now look, I got a bunch of spices and ingredients. Again, I wanted to have a little touch of an Asian flair here. So we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce. That's going to go in there. To give it some acidity, this is red wine vinegar. That goes in. We have some Worcestershire sauce. Just like we basted the ribs on it, a little splash in there is going to add some great flavor. Asian again, good old sriracha sauce. If you don't have sriracha, you can just use a little hot sauce. But man, on your sushi, you got to put a little bit of sriracha on it. And this is just add a little bit in here and it's going to give it some spice. You got a great sweetness from the cane syrup, and then you got that spice from the sriracha. This is going to just work. All this is going to work well together. Now, once we got all this in here, this is your base, but we're going to add some seasoning to it that's really just going to elevate this entire mixture. I got a bunch of things going here. First thing, this is a little bit of Creole mustard. Creole mustard is a whole grain mustard that we use here in Louisiana, but it's very similar. If you don't have access to Creole mustard, feel free to use any whole grain mustard or just Dijon mustard would be fantastic, but any mustard in here would be fantastic. So we're going to get that Creole mustard in here. Then watch all these spices. We got, some good old granulated garlic. That's going to go in. This is some granulated onion or onion powder. It's going to just give it a kind of again, just all kind of flavor. Again, watch your heat, but just a little bit of red pepper flake. We'll add just a little bit of spice. You know me, I say it all the time. I'm a whip when it comes to spicy food, but just a little red pepper flake balanced with all the seasonings is going to be fantastic. I have, again, we had used cumin earlier on the ribs themselves, on the rub, but we're also going to put some in the barbecue sauce as well, keeping all them flavors married together. So let's get that cumin in there. And then finally, our last seasoning before the salt and pepper, we're just going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon isn't just for sweets. It's going to give it just this little bit of a spice, just like you would put a clove on a ham. Well, cinnamon on this barbecue sauce is just going to give it a really great, interesting dynamic and spice to it. So you just mix all that together, and look, once you got everything done, that barbecue sauce comes together really quickly. Finish it off with some good old salt and pepper to taste, and that barbecue sauce is ready to go. So if you're preparing this at home or for some guests, you can go ahead and make this barbecue sauce a couple days in advance if you wanted to, but you can make your barbecue sauce in advance. You can take your ribs and actually get them going early, again, at 350 degrees, hour in the oven. Let's go ahead and grab some out as they've been going. Check, see what we got there. So these are some I got going earlier. We're going to pull this out. I'm going to put it right here, Rachel. I don't know if the camera will be able to catch it, but let's see. And again, 1 hour and a half after they've been in, that water and liquid is going to cause them to kind of steam. And we're going to go ahead, and this is, be careful when you take this off. You see all the steam can burn you. We're going to take that foil off, and now our ribs are perfectly cooked And a good thing about a rib is you want them to have some pull, but you don't want them to be just completely falling off the bone mush. And we timed it out, hour and a half is perfect. Well now, because it's been steaming, well now a good thing about a rib, we want some caramelization and get that barbecue sauce on it. So we have our barbecue sauce ready, and I have a good old paintbrush here. Spoon works fine if you don't have one. And now what we're gonna do, leave that oven on, y'all. I'm gonna put some barbecue sauce on. I'm just gonna douse them with this barbecue sauce. Look at that. Man, even that cinnamon coming off smells fantastic. And now I'm just gonna get that all over and then back into the oven for another 20 to 30 minutes. And that's gonna allow these ribs to kind of brown on the outside, and that barbecue sauce on the outside is gonna kind of caramelize on it as well and get a great flavor, get a little bark on the outside of those ribs. So back into that same oven for another 20 to 30 minutes. And that is exactly what we got going here. Now check out this difference as this comes. Now this has been basted in that barbecue sauce, caramelized on the outside. What you think, Ray? How those looking?
Amazing.
Yep. When we first put these ribs on the menu a couple weeks ago, the first day Rachel ate like 6 of them. Well, that ain't much. We serve as an appetizer, but you can definitely get more. And then now, all we got to do is these ribs are ready to go. Again, it depends on, like everything, y'all, however you like it is perfect. Get this out of the way. But I'm going to just put the ribs down. If you want to come back with a little, if you really like them nice and saucy, you can come back and paint a little bit more on there. That's what I like to do. So I'm going to get a little bit more on there. And then now, watch this little trick of how I plate them up. So we're going to take the ribs down. We're just going to kind of cut them, and look how they just, look again, a good rib should be able to pull off, but you should be able to pull that bone off, but it shouldn't come off too easily. It should have just a little bit of pull, and that's exactly what we got there. So I'm going to cut these into some serving portions. You got you a platter ready, or you can just serve them. You can either serve them like this as a whole rack, or whole or half a rack, which is fantastic, or you can just put them on a platter and kind of serve them up. This is kind of how we dish them up at the restaurant. We'll put a couple on like this, and you could, again, do you want more barbecue sauce? We'll just paint a little bit more on there. If you're good with it, just whenever it first comes out the oven, that's fantastic. I like mine a little saucy, so I'm going to paint that sauce on there. And then because we're sticking with that slight Asian flair, I just add a little bit of sesame seeds right at the end. This is going to add, this is great for presentation. It's going to add a great little kind of interesting crust on the outside. So we're going to just sprinkle a little bit of toasted sesame seeds right on top of those ribs, and a little bit of green onions. A little bit of green onions on top, and there we have it, y'all. This is our Asian-inspired ribs, but also keeping it with a little fusion, keeping it with some Louisiana ingredients, like that cane syrup that we have, made with a homemade barbecue sauce. Give this recipe a try. It's super easy. You do the whole ribs in the oven, and you make a little barbecues on the side, and it comes out fantastic. Me and Rachel are gonna dive right into these. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Thank you.